everyone, it's Kat and I'm here today to talk about a fragrance that I've been wearing a lot recently, and it is a Middle Eastern dupe for a very, very popular fragrance. So I'm going to talk to you about both of them, which one I prefer and why. So I'm talking about the new Lattafa, I don't know if it's Angham or Angham, but this is a fairly new fragrance. It only came to Australia about a month ago. This is a heavy inspiration for Burberry Goddess, which was sort of like the fragrance of 2023. I think it won a lot of awards. They've since brought out an intense version, which I don't quite like. So the notes for this are pretty simple. You've got vanilla, lavender, cacao, and ginger in the top notes, vanilla caviar in the middle notes, and vanilla absolute in the base notes. So it's very vanilla heavy, but surprisingly, it is balanced so well that vanilla isn't a dominant scent. In my opinion, this is a fairly safe blind buy for most people, unless you absolutely hate vanilla or absolutely hate lavender. I actually don't like lavender too much, and I found this to be balanced so nicely that this became a very easy sort of daily wear for me. This is one of my most worn fragrances of 2024, simply because it works day and night, every season, every occasion. It's not too projecting where it's going to annoy people on the train or in your office or anything like that. You can smell it, and if people come close to you, they can smell it. It smells very pretty. It also isn't sort of like age defined. I wouldn't say this is too junior. It's not too mature. It's just sort of one of those, everyone can wear this. I think what makes this special is that it does have that vanilla, but it's not too sweet or cloying or gourmand. It is really balanced nicely with that lavender that gives a bit of a sharpness. So it's sort of like a floral vanilla, and it's just a very, very pretty scent. So I know why this was so popular and why people love it. This is a very, very safe fragrance. This is a safe Christmas present for people. I feel like most people will enjoy it. They might not love it, but I think they'll enjoy it. So Lattafa recently came out with their interpretation of this. Now, some people don't like fragrance dupes. I might do a whole video where I'm talking about how I feel about fragrance dupes. For me, this is not a dupe. It's definitely a heavy inspiration, but I feel like they've taken it to a sort of different path, which I really like. So the notes of this one, it's a little bit more complicated. The top notes, there's ginger, mandarin, pink pepper, middle notes of lavender, praline, cacao, jasmine, and then base notes, vanilla, amber, and musk. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it does give a very, very similar effect. So I'm going to spray this now. So if I spray a bit onto this arm and a bit of Burberry onto this arm, both of them just standing there on my white table, I'm like, they don't look like dupes so much, but they have the same vibe. They're both sort of gold. They got the yellow liquid. There's the glass bottles. They look like they're a pair. So when you first spray them, the florals are dominant. So in Burberry, it's definitely that lavender. It's quite sharp. And then in Angham, I find that there's a little bit more of that sort of jasmine and lavender. So it's a little bit less sharp. But then these get a little bit more vanilla as they wear. So Burberry, for example, stays quite well balanced with the lavender. So that sharpness of lavender softens out a little bit with the vanilla. It's not super sweet. It's not super tacky, but it does start feeling quite feminine, and there's that vanilla sort of rounding it out. I would say that this is still quite, for my nose anyway, quite a prominent floral fragrance, but it's just very well supported with the vanilla. So that's how this tends to wear. And then as it fades down over time, I do find, again, that vanilla sticks around, but it's very well balanced and it's quite linear. So you get the sharpness of the lavender at the start, but then once it settles down, it sort of stays the same throughout the wear. It just sort of softens over time. Really, really pretty. I get decent wear out of this fragrance, probably about 6 hours-ish. But where it differs to Angham or Angham is that this becomes much more vanilla and much more fluffy vanilla. So if you really love vanilla and you love that fluffy, marshmallowy sort of cloud of vanilla that like a lot of really well constructed gourmand scents give you, this is what you would prefer. This becomes a lot more dominant vanilla, and it's that marshmallowy, sort of fluffy vanilla that I personally really, really like. I find this to be a lot more yummy. I do think the florals, again, stop it from being cloying and like nauseating and too much, but this is a yummy fragrance. It lasts really well on me, probably more like 8+ hours. And if this is on my clothes, I will then like go get that cardigan or something, put it on again the next day, and I'm like, oh, I can smell it. So this to me is a delicious, yummy scent. It feels very, very, very niche. Now, if you are only new to the fragrance sort of world, niche is sort of like generally more expensive, generally more unique. So you're probably spending hundreds of dollars for a niche fragrance. This is like niche quality at a 69 Australian dollar price point, which for reference, if you're in the US, it's probably like 40 bucks. So I find that this is such a beautiful fragrance. This is much yummier. I just reach for it a lot more, but this is more for your vanilla lover. So do you need both of these? Definitely not. Absolutely not. I think I probably echo a lot of people on the internet that say that once they bought this, they're actually a bit annoyed that they paid the price point for this. So Burberry designer, it's hundreds of dollars. And this was in Australian dollars, I think it was 69. So much cheaper. And this is more yummier and more what I sort of like on a daily basis. Whereas this feels a little bit more designer. So this feels a little bit more pleases everyone. It's not very offensive, but this is just something special, and it's just like delectable. I find that when I smell this on myself, I'm like, oh, so good. When I smell this on myself, I'm like, oh, that's nice and that's pretty. So I will wear both of these. I'm not going to just sell one because I've got both. This is more floral and more balanced and more sort of less personality. This is definitely yummier. And one thing that I love also about Middle Eastern fragrances is they get better over time, especially ones that are sweet and have like vanilla notes. Generally, the sweetness just becomes a little bit more longer lasting. They become a little bit stronger as you sort of use them over like a few months. So I predict that this one is going to be even yummier and more delectable as the months go on. But both of these are really nice. Both of these I feel like are all weather, all year round type of fragrances. So what are your thoughts? Have you tried either of these? I know this is a lot easier to smell in store because it's just in all the department stores, it's in Sephora, it's everywhere. I would recommend that if you quite like this is probably worth the blind buy online. I know Lattafa, at least in Australia, I can't smell this in store, but if you quite like the notes of this you will love and you will appreciate the price point. It is just an absolute win of a fragrance. And if you were wondering where I pick up my Lattafa in Australia, I really like private blends. I've ordered from them many times. Shipping's always really good. And what you can do is you get free gifts and stuff if you reach certain price points. So they're always really reasonable. They're a little bit behind with the releases, so it takes like a couple of months to get the new releases in, but they are a really, really good website. So that's where I ordered this from. I'll link them down below. There's no affiliation. There's no nothing. And I think I ended up picking this one up from Sephora. You can get it at Adore Beauty and whatnot. So anyway, they're both lovely, but this is by far smashes it out of the park. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next fragrance review. Bye.